into the cloud. Hi there and welcome. So excited about today's interview. It's called The Return of the Feminine, Embodiment, Energy and Erotic Aliveness. And I have with me Allison Pagano. Thank you so much for being here, Allison. It's absolutely awesome to have you to talk about this subject. I've been so excited about this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so honored to be part of the message that you're sharing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what arises here.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I would love to just introduce you and share your beautiful bio. Your work is so powerful and potent and healing for not only the embodiment process, but also that idea that we all as women carry erotic energy. And that erotic
Mm,
energy never does actually expire. Till the day we die, we're carrying erotic energy. And
mm,
your work is so incredible at keeping the aliveness of that life force or eros or whatever we'd like to name it,
mm,
chi, prana. And given your background, so your bio, so Allison is a dancer, former professor and performer with 25 years in the healing arts. And I'd also add many lifetimes probably as a healer. Her work centres on a
mm.
simple truth that the body is not just something we carry around, it is an intelligent guiding system. So I am so down for that. She has spent
Mhm.
her career exploring how people heal with and through movement, as well as understanding how energy and quantum healing can combine with dance to provide transformative experiences for performers, audiences, clients, and students. And having
Mm,
been one of your dance students and also an audience member for your performances, I just
mm,
know that this transmission that you're able to embody is something that we might have a performance in front of us, but we might not be moved by that performance. Or we
mm.
might be in front of a performer and we may be so transformed. And there is a difference between how that experience plays itself out. And I'd love us to look at that because we're all basically influencing each other in that way in certain
Absolutely.
parts of our lives. And I think the
Mm,
way that you walk through life, even outside your teaching space, is very powerful. The embodied
mm,
dance method was born out of a desire to fill in the gaps in dance training where the mind body connection is often missing and to provide a holistic approach, teaching to and from the whole person. The
mm.
method seeks to provide experiences using dance as a healing, a communicative tool to explore how we interpret, address, and envision what it means to be human, evolving and responding to our changing times.
Mm.
How amazing are you and your work? So, what I'd love
Likewise.
to I'd love to use that as a pivot point for the women out there who are actually finding so just this idea of the fact that we're in such changing times, yeah? We're in a world where being able to actually be flexible and resilient and move with the currents that are actually at play in
Mm,
our world is incredibly challenging for some of us, particularly
mhm,
sensitive women. And I
mm,
really want to explore first. I generally like to use our first access point as the area where a lot of women may be possibly going with this idea that society is difficult to be present for. And so
mhm.
disconnection and disembodiment starts to perhaps appear. So, what does it really
Mm.
mean for a woman to feel disconnected? For women who might not even know that they're disconnected,
Right.
how does that really show up, particularly after periods of stress, service based roles, or heartbreak?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And thank you for articulating that. So I feel like what happens ultimately is that most of us are running around living from the neck up and not knowing it anyway. Um, but it's just being high functional, but not present. It's just being as one of my teachers would say, the human doing.
Mhm.
Managing taking care of, making decisions, but somehow feeling absent from themselves, but to the point where they might not even know that that's happening. So it's this
Mhm.
kind of desensitization, if that's trying to find the word there, but
Mm.
where you're just not able to feel. In a very simple
Mm.
term, just not able to feel. But when
Mhm.
you're not able to feel, you've turned off all the other signals.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of coming into this place where there's just functioning and doing, but there's nothing's really plugged in.
Mm.
It's just
Oh,
kind of the machine, what's that saying? It's like the machine's going, but there's no one behind the wheel.
yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
So it can be almost something that becomes like a survival mechanism when we're in it long enough. I've been there,
Mm.
for sure, in
Mm.
different times in my life.
Me
And
too.
so there's no shame, judgment if you're finding yourself in a place like that. I feel like we go through periods where intense stress or trauma can put us, quite literally make us feel that
Mm.
we're out of our body because we can't be with something. And there's
Mhm.
nothing shameful about that. It's
Mm.
the body's way of protecting itself. But
Mhm.
when that goes on over time, it's just hard to rest. It's hard to receive. It's hard to feel pleasure. It's hard to um, understand what our no feels like, even
Mhm.
in our
Mhm.
body. It's just kind of like we feel resentful, but we don't know why, because we've just been
Mhm.
going against our own inner need, if we could even
Mhm.
sense what that need might be.
Mhm.
Um, and lastly, on that, you mentioned something about coming out of heartbreak.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, with the heartbreak piece, it's a very delicate thing because we have to name and really understand how long we've been leaving ourselves behind
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
to really name the abandonment piece that we went through inside that heartbreak. So I feel like the heartbreak can be a great doorway back into
Mhm.
feeling when we're ready to name and hold ourselves in a way that we previously hadn't been.
Yeah, wow, wow. So being able to call the experience for what it is I'm hearing that's an important part of us coming back to ourselves is having a connection to the languaging around the experience. And from what I can understand from my experience of your work too, is that the languaging doesn't have to be through the voice. It can be through the way the body moves that experience through the body. So how do you understand embodiment in a way that's accessible and real, rather than that abstract idea that I've had this experience that I'm going to use talk therapy to get through? You've
Right.
got a very evolved somatic approach to that where you're actually moving that experience through the embodiment process. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for asking. So the first part of the process is having the courage and the space and the allowance of time to actually be present with what is.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds overly simple, but
Mm.
you would be shocked at how many people have a hard time with that first step
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of just coming back, placing a hand on the heart and going, what's actually here right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is happening for me. My breath
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit shallow, and I can sense that there's this anxiety in my belly. And if I feel into the anxiety in my belly, it's from that thing that my husband said to me earlier this morning that brought me into this other place. And I realize I'm worried about the kids doing that. And just sometimes even going, just acknowledging what's present and true. And it doesn't always have to be something that feels heavy or stressful, but it can be also beautiful. Like I'm noticing in this moment, I'm looking out the window and that little butterfly just landed on the branch, and how beautiful to have observed that, but coming
Yeah.
into the present and acknowledging what's here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful.
The first step, and I want to say social media on the other side of it is the antithesis of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's constantly pulling us out and putting us into distraction. And it's like
Yes.
scrolling has become this disembodiment practice in a way, right? And we all do it because
Yes.
it's just this psychological thing we've gotten wrapped
Yes.
into. But just to understand the opposite, if you wanted to understand. Um, Yeah, so the second piece I have really for after coming present is trusting what you
Mm,
feel. Okay, so
mm,
I feel this, I can sense, so I'm being present right now. And if I'm present, I notice naming sometimes even the things like, oh, I notice
mm,
there's a little tightness in my lower back. I notice that this fabric I'm wearing feels a little itchy, whatever it is,
mhm, mhm.
I'm noticing, yeah, that there is that little lingering doubt about something. And I trust that I feel that. I trust that there's something in me that is giving me this information. There's this aspect of communing with it and being curious around what the feeling is and where it's coming from. Oh,
Mhm.
I ate that thing earlier today and now my stomach's a little bit, maybe maybe those kinds of things are not so great for me, on a nutritional level, starting to discern what's good for the
Mm.
body. And it's
Yes,
amazing how much we'll override because we've always heard that something is good for us, right?
yes,
Where,
yes,
every body is so different and everybody's digestion is so different. So
yes.
listening to what is there and then trusting the information that you get and
Mm.
being in the practice of trust
Mhm,
around
mhm.
it. So it's kind of practical and immediate in that
That's
way.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
breath, sensation, noticing, yeah, just what's here.
Yes.
Um, and what your relationship is to what's here without shaming it, judging it, blaming it, or making it wrong.
I say. So almost like a compassionate witnessing experience of the here and now, and trusting our own signaling, which in society tends to be very devalued or diminished in importance and priority when you look at how we're operating inside a very capitalist machine that separates us a lot from how we're actually going into our emotionality, and really sensing our
Absolutely.
instincts, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Mm.
thank you so much for naming the capitalist machine.
Yeah.
I knew we
Yeah.
were going to hit on that at some point.
Uh,
Yeah, the systems that we were born into, that gave us really little to no permission or um, guidance on how to have this kind of relationship. And I kind of feel like this is sort of the baseline.
yeah.
This is sort of the foundation. How did we skip over this?
How did
And,
we?
without kind of making it all about malevolence, because there is, I believe, a certain malevolence to it, in
Yes.
terms of power and control. But
Yeah.
at some point, people start realizing we're missing the plot on some level because they get to a point in their life and they feel really dissatisfied. They feel very disconnected. And they're like, well, I did all the things that I was told to do, and I still don't know who I am, what I want, or what I feel. So it's like, how do we call that successful?
Yes, yes. How
Um,
fascinating is it that this idea that it's so difficult for a lot of people? And I know when I hear you speak about this idea of courage to name what's there, it was a really big step, I know, for me personally, stepping into your dance class because I'd never done dance before. I'd been a yoga teacher and, considered myself a relatively embodied woman. But to
mm,
go into my body in the way that dance requires really
mm,
was a big quantum leap for me in deepening a sense of embodiment because I've always thought I've got two left feet. I feel that,
mm,
there was a lot of risk of humiliation and shame, but you
yeah.
created a very safe place for me to explore a lot of the what was present for me that I might not have been able to do in any other way. So, what are
Mm,
some? I know you've mentioned some really simple things. I'm sure you've got more. Some simple ways that women can start putting that courage and
mm.
um, that trust into their bodies in order to take the next steps with an embodiment experience. Yeah, what would you say next?
Around how do they kind of muster the courage, or how would you say?
Yes,
How do they
yes,
muster the
yes.
courage? Well, often,
Yeah, yeah.
often you muster the courage up because you've done everything else.
I say,
It
yeah,
normally comes, unfortunately, like most things in life, to make great change or to do the different thing, you almost have to feel, unfortunately, not for all people. Some people it comes as
Mm,
a curiosity, but some other people it
mm,
has to come like a knock on some level of being hit really
mhm,
hard. And I know I've had to make a lot of
mhm,
changes when I've hit some bottom points as well. But
mhm,
you, first, a
mhm.
lot of people, you hit the end of a road and you say, well, I've done the full capacity of this thing. And
Yes,
I'm not experiencing what I know I have the capacity for. So
yes,
I
yes,
might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm willing to give it a go. And, being able to find people that you can create that safe rapport with, because there are also a lot of, just like any field, there's a lot of leaders or teachers that may not create the safe space they say they do. Um,
yes,
and I'm not speaking of anyone in particular. I'm just thinking from what a lot of people have shared with me over the years.
yes,
Um, so it's and trusting your body's intelligence around certain
yes,
people.
yes,
Somebody saying it's a safe space doesn't equal safe space. So
yes.
if you're around someone and your body clenches, trust that.
Mhm,
If you're
mhm.
around someone and you feel your heart open and you feel light, that's probably someone who can navigate it with you, right?
Yes,
But again, it kind of goes back to, being able to be with the body enough to know what those signals are.
I see.
And I know
Yes,
you mentioned something about um, you said something about like being worried or about like the expression piece, right? And I want to
yes,
name that a little bit too because
mm,
of how many people were shamed around the
yes,
vulnerability of bodily expression. I
yes,
want to say it's just as intimate, if not more so, than a sexual experience because
mhm,
you are letting something in the body take over. It's something
mm,
that is not conjured. It's something that is
mm,
not
mm.
created for anyone's benefit, but it's
Yes,
your attempt at naming what feels truthful for you.
yes, yes,
And when you've had a lot of, if people have experienced bullying or had been shamed, or somebody said, well, you can't do that, that looks terrible, right? Those sort of thoughts, they just linger and they get really knocked around in us.
yes, yes, yes.
Especially if we don't have any other experiences to counteract it. So I love
Mhm.
that you came into class and did something. And I hadn't known really, I think, that
Yes,
were doing this sort of thing for the first time. I just loved having
yes,
you there.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, I wonder for you in a way,
Mm,
um, what you see women needing that kind of courage for in
mm,
your work,
mm. Oh,
to like
yes,
meet those
yes,
levels of expression coming into the menopausal phase and different aspects of their
yes.
sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking that because I do agree with you that it's such a vulnerable, intimate thing to have a conversation with our bodies, and then to also share that conversation with someone else, either in a dance class or in a therapeutic setting, or however that embodiment experience, however we show up in our bodies as females in particular, we tend to either come up against this idea of being objectified by the
Mhm.
eros
Right.
or forced to dissociate from it because it carries a charge for a lot of women around don't move or express yourself out of turn or out of your comfort zone. And I guess
Mm,
what I experienced in I will totally attest to what you said, Alison, about when you reach a breaking point in your life, which is where I was when I came to your class,
mm,
you're actually willing to try anything that you might not have tried before. So sometimes we get to that point. And I guess I
mm,
was definitely curious about that if I'd perhaps been guided sooner to the process itself, could that have saved me? A part of the collapse that we go through in midlife, where a lot of our hormonal reconfiguration is also very confusing and disorientating. And yet at the
Yeah.
same time, what's really happening is the true north is emerging from the chaos. So there's a part of us as women that are being guided to the true north, or our, our purposeful life, our best expression, however you want to call that potentiality that lies in us. It's not
Mm.
always a comfortable, graceful spiral like you see in the beautiful yoga, books around Kundalini
No,
rising.
no,
It's often
definitely not. There's
incredibly,
a lot
right?
more other lines at play. Yeah.
What I feel is really beautiful about what you're offering is this capacity for the body to express some of the chaotic nature, the sacred
Mm.
rage, the intense emotionality that we might not have felt in our daily lives that could process cortisol and stress hormones. But
Right.
you're offering a resourceful way to channel energy that hasn't got
Mm.
anywhere else to go, and it's so
Right.
used to being trapped inside the cerebral mechanisms that we're kind of conditioned into.
Mm.
What made you want to move your body? Like, were you moving
Oh,
from a young
absolutely. Yeah,
age?
I'm really
Yeah,
happy to answer this.
yeah.
I was completely locked inside myself for the
Mm,
first third of my life. And you may not think
mm,
about it like this. You might not see me this way now because
mm.
I don't come across this way, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
I did not really speak unless spoken to, and that wasn't my family's doing. That came from a very deep level shutdown, and there were some reasons for
Mm,
that.
mm,
Um, but I was a stranger in my own body. I was completely unable to express or really connect with a lot of different things. And I would just stretch and, write stories as a kid, and that seemed to help me kind of do whatever I needed to do to get by in a way. I started taking dance classes. Well, actually, I was always dancing in the backyard after
mm,
school.
mm,
Um, I grew up in a house full of police officers, though, so they weren't really all of, they weren't really gonna say, "Hey, Allison, why don't you go into dance class?" It wasn't really like they understood what I was doing or, really. Wanted to champion it, and that's fine. It's just a whole different way of thinking. But I was just in a place where I felt very locked inside myself, and I
mhm,
felt I had this super high level sensitivity. I could
mm,
walk in a room, feel what everybody was feeling but not saying, and go, "Oh my goodness!" And it was just, having this high degree of sensitivity and empathic connection, and like all of this stuff I could feel in my body, but I just felt frozen.
mm.
And eventually I developed an eating disorder in my late teens, early 20s that went kind of rampant for a few years. And I've shared this story, I'm sure, many other times, but I was here in University of Southern Cross as in the 1999, really. And I was taking a class with an Indigenous woman called Spiritual Wellbeing, which I didn't think that I was like,
Wow.
how would you take a college class called spiritual well-being? I thought it was fascinating. And through that
Wow.
class, I began to tackle this disassociation because, like you're sharing, I got to a point where I was like, I hate being in a body and I'm done with this. I don't
Wow.
know why I
Mm,
feel so, I hate life. I hate my
mm,
body. And it took me years to unravel that it was also lineage and ancestral stuff
mm,
and
mm,
deep dynamics that were unspoken that I
mm,
was pulling in and transmuting,
mm,
but that's another
mm,
story. But
mm,
this woman gave me the space and really the task of exploring it. So I set out in the studio and I just got the courage to meet it. And I didn't know anything about, I was 20 years old. I
mm.
didn't know anything about dance therapy or any of the things that are out there now and it's somatic work. It wasn't the buzzword that it is now. I just got
Mm,
desperate. I got desperate to
mm.
feel,
Wow.
really. And I
Yes.
wanted to
Yes.
feel again. I wanted to know who I was and why I was here. And it was just sort of that
Yeah.
existential, 20-year-old crisis kind of thing. And what I ended up doing was meeting those parts inadvertently and
Mm,
just being honest enough to say, God, like, I've got rage, I've got grief.
mm,
And how does this want to move to fully express itself and letting myself
mm,
go there?
mm, mm.
And
Yes.
then letting
Wow.
myself go there and all the other, once I could touch those, quote unquote negative emotions, I could start to touch the other ones too. Because when you're shut
Yes.
down, you can't touch anything. You can't touch the
Yes.
pleasure,
Yes.
So it's not like, you get to shut it down, but you can still find joy. No, your joy is
Yes.
in there. Your joy's in the
Yes.
soup of it.
Yes.
So through inadvertently getting to meet those different layers and
Yes.
express them, I started to again develop that kind of trust of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, there's something building here
Mm.
that's a bigger awareness. And I
Mm.
ended up
Mm.
choreographing like a sort of piece to show the class about what I did, and it was just really owning it. That
Wow.
sort that it kind of gave me my internal compass back, and
Yep.
it gave me my sense of I might be okay in the world now. Like it
Oh,
was just
so
kind of like
beautiful. Yeah.
owning my humanness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
so basic, but it was just like, okay, I feel like I've met myself now.
Yes. Yes.
And nobody told me like that was there, but my body showed
Yes.
me what was there. So I think I can trust it.
That's
And that was really
beautiful.
the beginning of the work that I teach now. That it started back
Wow.
then. Yeah, and that
Wow, what an amazing experience, and that beautiful woman's facilitation, being able to create a safe enough space for you to be able to do that as well. And I would have signed up for that unit for sure. And
I believe it was, and I have to go meet her at some point,
yeah,
hopefully, but I believe it was Dr. Judy Atkinson. I have to go
I'll
find
say
her.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. With that being said, what I'm hearing as well is that the activation of, we can call it so many things, and I think I mentioned it at the start of the interview, life force energy,
mm,
prana, chi, whatever. I guess religious codes you or languaging you want to use. I often call it the Holy Spirit because I believe it's something that we can access at any time.
mhm,
It's bringing us to life-giving properties inside ourselves. It's regenerative and replenishing itself. And I'd love
mm,
to know what that relationship to the embodiment process has looked like as you approach the midlife kind of curve of perimenopause, where the body is reconfiguring itself to a degree with hormonal change. But,
right.
as women, one of the reasons I guess I really wanted us to speak on this was that a lot of women feel like their desire, libido,
Mm,
sensuality starts to then shut down again as they cross the midlife bridge. And my
right,
fascination as a pelvic and sexual health educator is in this idea that it doesn't have to be that way. We can actually keep the embodiment connection really strong through a period
mhm,
of time where we probably need it the most in a way, but we're more
mm,
likely to give it up due to self consciousness, due to energy issues. I'd love to hear
right.
your thoughts on that. Yeah.
On specifically how we kind of take that back or what the journey is like around it.
Yeah, and how we can support women to, I guess, see the importance of
Mm,
staying embodied, even
yeah.
through a period of midlife where maybe there is
Mm,
there's a bit of a dominant narrative about women not being able to show up visibly in their bodies because the midlife experience it feels like
right,
it's
right,
losing youth and beauty, losing
right,
other
right,
things.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fascinating. And
Mm.
I'm really hoping that we're the generation that really turns the tide with this. I have good faith in us.
Yes, 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 yes.
And
Beautiful.
especially with the book that you're writing, Sexy Menopause, and all that you're bringing forward with that, and really shifting the paradigm around what's possible for women. And it's not the sentence that we've been given where you kind of hit a certain age and shut down and become invisible.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
how do we rather deepen into
mm, mm.
to kind of pull from the marrow of our own wisdom?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
kind of what I feel is really, really, juicy in a way. Not to, but it's just to, um, yeah, to deepen. I feel like
Mm,
this time is about going 10 layers deeper, and not in
mm.
any way that, is defeating or you know, making you less than in any capacity, but
Mm-hmm.
going deeper in to really bring out the fullness
Mm,
and holding that we have for
mm,
ourselves. So
mm.
I feel like so many women up until midlife can be so outwardly focused, right? It's like,
Yes,
oh, it's about the kids, it's about the career, it's about all these different things.
yes.
And I feel like midlife is this great opportunity to just take all of that outward push or outward presence and bring it
Mm-hmm.
10 layers deeper in.
Amazing.
And when we bring it deeper in and we get, because we have the experience, we have the compassion built in, we have the wisdom, we have the intuition, it gives us the opportunity to just turn those pieces on even brighter. And
Wow.
that just looks like being courageous and compassionate enough with ourselves to
Mm,
own the parts of our past that we have judgments about,
mm-hmm.
to integrate the places where we still don't think we're good enough, to
Mm-hmm.
lovingly accept things that we still can't get past in some regard. But, being able to meet one layer at a time where you still don't feel you can accept or that you can be with, and
Yes.
showing yourself that you can. I
Uh-huh.
feel like that's where your true power is. And I feel like that's where you also hold true power for others.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
and it just makes life feel, again, just a little bit more expansive because
Mm-hmm.
what we don't realize we're missing a lot of the time.
Yes.
We can kind of keep these things happening peripherally or superficially in a certain way, but we're missing out on all of the good stuff of
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
you use the word aliveness, and it's like
Yeah.
when you deepen in tenfold,
Yes.
your aliveness and the expansion and the magnetism can also
Yes.
multiply tenfold. So it's almost
Yes.
like they're a beautiful
Yes.
mirror for each other. And it's
That's
so worth it to
mm,
put yourself in experiences, surround yourself with women who
mm,
are also curious about that and
mm-hmm.
also want to investigate the marrow of life and live
Mm.
from what's available to them because there's such a richness in the wisdom of women.
Yes.
And I feel like as much as you and I have talked about things in terms of spirituality and that idea of the Magdalene returning and the
Yes.
Magdalene being kind of the feminine wisdom body, right? This
Yes.
feminine gnosis, this way of communing
Mm.
with ourselves, with the earth, with spirit in ways that I think are very unique to women. How do we turn that all
Yes.
the way up? Because that's the kind of leadership that's actually going to get us
Mm,
out of or lead us forward from whatever this is
mm,
currently. That's what I see. It's like
mm,
we
mm.
need women's wisdom turned
I
all the way up.
Yes, 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 yes. Beautiful. Thank you for being an ambassador for that. And I absolutely couldn't agree more. And
Mm,
it also provides a good segue into your other iteration of your work, where
mm,
your capacity to hold that internal template of aliveness, and also to be a model for the evolution, I guess, of how we support ourselves to be internally resourced in order to
mm,
experience true intimacy with a
mm,
partner. So I think what's
mm,
also happening on the planet is a lot of women are choosing to be single, and a lot of women are choosing to leave their relationships in midlife. And part of that is because they are no longer prepared to override their discernment about what it is that they're experiencing in an energetic
yeah.
exchange with a partner, and that a lot of women are choosing to protect that Magdalene energy, or supporting, a more solitary experience of their soul purpose, because
Mm,
being in a relationship can be highly problematic, dangerous, possibly even take us off course from our purpose.
absolutely.
I'm really touched by your capacity, Allison, to hold space for a therapeutic process that
Mm,
enabled I'll call it an unhooking from a very toxic masculine framework or template that I was holding internally, and
Mm,
a retemplating of the healthy masculine that I think I'd
mm,
been missing my whole life, if I'm honest,
yeah.
that
Mhm,
enabled me to move into a new stage of healing, particularly in relationship to patriarchy, where I'm
mm,
not feeling like I'm at war with that toxic masculine, and where I'm feeling a lot more confident to go into a world understanding what a healthy masculine looks like. I'm not quite sure
mm,
what my question there is, other than I would love to hear your thoughts, I guess, on what is it going to take for us to heal the masculine, which is a very wounded energy on our planet, which
mm.
is bucking up against this shift, I guess, in consciousness. And as
Yes,
far as I can see
absolutely.
it, there's a fork in the road. There's two paths we can go down. One
Hmm.
is where the unhealthy toxic masculine gets so angry that there's more than one woman killed every day in Australia, and it just keeps
Mm,
getting worse, which we keep seeing in the statistics. That's a pathway that we can go down. But there is also a pathway where more and more healthy men are waking
mm,
up and showing unhealthy or toxic masculinity, what it means to be healthy. And there's more
mm,
women holding space for that, which is what you do so beautifully.
mm.
Talk to me about this other idyllic path, and what will it take us to heal
Yeah.
the masculine? Yeah.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, my husband actually wrote a little something about this morning and posted it. It was funny. He showed me that. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right on par with all the conversations we've been having lately. Because it was all about, what the work we have to do as men to actually invite in a healthy woman in our
Yep.
lives.
Yep.
And
Mm,
it's very much on par with a lot of the things that, you and I are talking about. But in my
yes.
language, it kind of comes back to the first thing that we were talking about, being honest with what we're
Mm,
feeling, being honest with what
mm,
our past is about, being honest about who we are and what we're
mm,
bringing.
mm,
And I think the masculine, because unfortunately they're a little bit more, I'm going to say, tied in with a lot of the egoic presentation, that
mm,
the shame around the masculine is so intense that sometimes it's even harder for them to
mm.
meet some of these layers unless they are really pushed by a big crisis, right?
Yes.
For the masculine to face their own inner shame is a big piece.
Yes.
But that's one thing I'll say.
Yes.
Um, but it comes down to the feeling sense around the outer and the internal misogyny that we are,
Yep.
kind of programmed to be a part of, right? So the inner
Mhm.
misogyny being, I can't feel, I don't trust, I'm going to disconnect. This
Mhm.
is not valuable to, intuition is blast, it not
Mm,
doesn't matter. It doesn't make any
mm,
sense,
mm,
and just kind of poo-pooing everything that is
mm.
of the deeper feminine wisdom body, because we're
Yes.
kind of, academia tells us to do it, not directly,
Yes.
but pretty, covertly. And basically any form that is respected has this internal misogyny around
Mm,
feeling and
mm,
wisdom, right? There's
mm.
something about it that's just very squashed. So
Yes.
I think it's really taking both men and women meeting the internal misogyny, I'll call it. I'm going to
Yes.
talk about this in a couple of layers.
Yeah.
Something that one of my mentors said recently really resonated with me as well, in terms of women feeling safe inside of a lot of what people are talking about in these polarity circles. Because
Mm,
these polarity circles, they're always saying, oh, the woman just has to surrender, right, to
mm,
whatever
mm,
man this is, despite whoever he is and whatever he's
mm,
doing, right?
mm,
And what she was saying was, actually, no, it doesn't work in that order. The man actually
mm,
has to do the inner work to feel his feelings first. And
mm,
when he feels his feelings first and can hold that
mm,
for himself, and he's met the depth of his own feeling, then he naturally becomes a protector of women and children. And
mm,
then he invites in the safety of women.
mm,
So it's like that's
mm.
almost the prerequisite. And I have to say, when she said that, I totally agreed with her.
Yeah. Well.
Um,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
really struck a chord. So
Mm,
the piece that's difficult for a lot of
Mm.
women, which is kind of the final part here, is
Yeah.
that we don't have enough examples of what that feels like. We don't have enough
Mm,
examples
mm,
around us of safe men. And it's not because men
mm,
are inherently bad, it's because they can't feel their feelings,
mm,
right?
mm.
So, what do we do to start rewiring
Yes,
that
yes.
capacity, right? So, this is kind of the process that I led you through and a bit of the process that I teach, which is what I came to when I fell to my knees after my last betrayal at 44,
Mm,
45 years old. And I
yes.
said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to take one more relationship. It was almost that moment where,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to get six more cats or, I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
Something like something's got to give here. I'm done. And what I had to come to that was really challenging was to meet the aspect of the holy masculine that I had pushed so far away
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of religious conditioning, because, I grew
Mm-hmm.
up in a Roman Catholic household that I felt very at odds with, even as a
Mm-hmm.
child. I was like, that's not my experience of God. I don't know what you're talking about, but the God that I feel in my heart is really different than the one you're talking about, in terms of a lot of this, really violent God and all that. And I was like, I just can't get on board with that. But I ended
Yes.
up throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, well,
Yes.
there is, there's just this, violent masculine I was handed as a child that's living, outside somewhere and going through all of the whole new age thing and all of the different things that I did that also didn't work
Mm,
over a few decades, I had to come
mm,
back and realize that I need to connect with that masculine aspect of God and of or
mm,
Christ, if you
mm,
will, to find my safety. Because I
mm,
think that's the only place I can find it that's actually true.
mm,
And I
mm,
had to get knocked for 3 decades before I
mm,
came to realize that. And I
mm.
didn't go in through the doorway of religion. I went actually in through the doorway of the feminine Christ through the
Yes.
Sophianic lens.
Yes.
And the Sophianic lens was beautiful and wonderful, but it was also like I had not yet met the masculine. So the
Yes.
masculine aspect was the next initiation. And
Yes.
when I came back to meeting that masculine emanation of God, whether you call it Christ or whatever word you use,
Mm,
meeting that was the thing that broke me open and that changed and
mm,
shifted everything from that day forward.
mm,
And that's why
mm,
I
mm.
believe in it so much. And for women who are ready to receive it, it's the thing that actually heals and
Yes.
restores the wounding that we can't bring anywhere else. So it's
Yes.
like that wounding and the trauma that you were passed down, the wounding and the trauma that you've been holding. There's no human man right now that can hold that, probably. So you
Yes.
have to bring it somewhere that you can really, really know is true.
Mm, mm,
So it looks like receiving from
mhm,
that level of holding,
mm,
where many of us have feel abandoned by, we feel
mhm.
like we've been, Eve bit the apple, you're cast out of the garden, like some of
Yes.
these different
Yes.
things that we've been told. And it just takes a lot of sorting through these beliefs and going, God, what's actually true for me and what can I feel?
Yes.
Um, to come back to receiving that kind of purity and love and holding and safety.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I'll just say that
Amen.
for now because it's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's so incredible to hear that language and to have a deep appreciation for savoring that truth and wisdom that you've just shared. And I know that I absolutely could talk to you for hours about this and we'd never run out of things to say. But I also know that people listening to this will be very curious about how to get in contact with you, how to have sessions with you, where to find your work.
Yeah.
So where would we go to find you? And I'll absolutely include your links in the notes and in the comments section of our posts. But I would love for you to direct us to the best place for people to make contact with your work.
Yeah, absolutely. The bigger part of my work outside of the masculine aspect is I lead a global teacher training using dance as a healing art. So my website is
Hmm.
predominantly geared towards that information,
Hmm.
and that is embodied-dance.com. For my content, I'm primarily on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is embodied dot dance.
Yes.
Um, Facebook is Allison Pagano. And I'm going to be offering this work again in a way that women can receive it. I have the process, it's called Embodied Union. So reach
Hmm.
out to me if you're interested and say, hey, I want to know more about Embodied Union because I'm going to have that
Yes.
out and available for people. Um,
Yes. And your embodied union process, is that, do you offer one-on-ones or small group experiences of that,
so
or a bit of both?
Yeah, so I've done recently a group process that I have the whole process recorded and ready for someone. If
See.
someone wants to go through it as a course in that regard, they can. If they want to do that and have me as support, they can do
Mhm.
both.
Incredible. I cannot recommend your mentoring more highly, given that I had a very, very profoundly liberating experience and feel incredibly grateful to you for stepping into a role where the leadership side of this is literally like carving a new pathway through a jungle that is very dense and thick, because you are the first one to go, through that jungle. And um, I just want to really acknowledge and validate you for that, for being for your feminine leadership, in
Mm,
that regard. That you're absolutely bringing something very unique and powerful that the world really needs to heal the wounded masculine, and to also bring back some of the joyous
mm,
uh, wondrousness of women reconnecting to desire and sensuality, to not get to midlife and say, well, I've been broken by men and I no longer wish to partake. it's, it's a really beautiful thing that you're offering a conscious option, because a lot of women, I think, also feel that they
mm,
do not have that option available to them anymore. They've given up hope. And
mhm,
what you've just spoken to really, I think, supports hope, because where the hope, what I see, the hope has been in the world at large through the process of meeting someone in their physicality. But what
mm,
you've described is so accessible from a spiritual point of view, that when
mm.
we retemplate our internal world, we can actually impact the world around us in ways that we can't even conceive of, that provide
Absolutely.
us with a way of solving some of these dilemmas. That if we're pushing ourselves through the material world, attempting to work on, these aspects without that spiritual guidance, it basically is a really impossible task. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for offering that
Mm,
solution. And
yeah.
thank
Thank
you
you for
so much
naming
for
that.
your time today as well. And
Mm.
yeah, really wish we had longer, but I'll start to wrap things up. Is there anything you would like to say about words of wisdom for any woman traversing the midlife crucible and change, that might actually support her to keep crossing the bridge and stay in her body and in her feminine power?
Yeah. I would love to share with any woman who feels like she's crossing the threshold to abandon the things that she's been told what it is and to trust her own experience first and to become, I mean, to sound cliche or silly, but trust herself to become the captain of her own ship. I think it's really the time to cast aside other people's doubts and worries and fears around who we are, who we're becoming, and really turn that volume down and turn the inner volume up. And let the inner volume be so loud that you give yourself permission to be exactly who you want to be and to give yourself the curious courage needed to take unfamiliar steps that are being asked of you so that you can hold more, share more, and give of the things that are most important to you so that you actually can walk away from whatever this lifetime has been for you, knowing that you've fulfilled it fully.
Oh, that is just beautiful. Thank you so much, Alison Pagano. You are amazing, and it's been such a pleasure and an honor to connect with you.
Likewise,
Thank you.
Lisa, I'm so honored to know you, and I'm so proud of you, of all that you are bringing forward and birthing and leading the paradigm shift for. So I'm on board for it, and it's great. So happy to
Thank
be
you.
here.
Oh, thank you so, so much.
Mm.